You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is my review for Morbius. Now, before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. Morbius is a 2022 comic book action film from director Daniel Espinosa, starring Jared Leto and Matt Smith. The film follows biochemist Michael Morbius in his hunt to cure himself and his best friend of a rare blood disease by engineering a bat-human hybrid fusion. But when the experiment goes wrong, inadvertently infuses himself with a form of vampirism instead. Well, Morbius is finally here after how many delays at this point, including a last-ditch effort type of delay just earlier this year, moving this from early 2022 back to its final release date of April 1st. And we all kind of thought this April 1st was a bit fitting because, well, was the film real? Or was this just Sony playing a long, sadistic joke on us all? And when it came to Morbius, I can't say I was excited. Honestly, I thought the trailers for this film looked really terrible. I'm over Jared Leto, both behind the scenes and honestly, in front of the camera as well. Haven't liked either of the Venom films, which leaves me with zero faith in Sony making these offshoot Spider-Man movies. Really, everything about Morbius was throwing glaring red flags up as we approached release date, but I try to go into these things with an open mind, no matter how terrible they look from the trailers. And unfortunately, Morbius is just as bad as anticipated. Whew. Yeah, this is right down there with the Venom films. And honestly, I would say Morbius makes the Venom movies look quite good in comparison. So let's go ahead and talk about positives first. I would say the score is somewhat of a positive for me. That kind of main theme sounded cool. It was just quite repetitive and nothing really innovative with that score, but it did a little bit to kind of make it feel like a superhero film at the least. Honestly, that's really all I have for outright positives when it comes to Morbius. I guess it's under 2 hours long, so you don't have to sit through this painstakingly slow drag for 3 hours. You only have to get through two. So let's get into it. Let's get into all the reasons Morbius just didn't work. And I'll start with the light stuff, being that it just is unoriginal. It's super paint by the numbers. When you look at the story, we've seen this type of origin story 1,000,001 times, and we've seen it done much better 1,000,001 times. The screenplay, the script is not well crafted, and when we get down to the actual spoken word, the dialogue, it's terrible. Jared Leto turns in a flat performance, which I guess juxtaposes Matt Smith's way over the top woo performance. Felt like they were in two completely different films. And I guess I would be a little bit more interested in that campy version Matt Smith was in because Jared Leto just was flat as a board here. I guess he kind of looks like a dark vampire, but I wish they would have found pretty much any other actor, really. And it's the structure they really tried to get you to care about this friendship or these characters and what they're doing, but they're so poorly developed that it's impossible. This friendship that they tried to develop is like this, and then it turns on the drop of a dime. And then when we try to get those stakes into the second and third acts, they feel completely unearned and unsatisfying. Same thing with Morbius and his partner's little friendship relationship. Nothing is explained. None of the rules are followed very well. They're not defined very well, and it's just a hodgepodge mess of a script. This screenplay is really, really bad. You know what else is outright terrible? The visual effects. Oh my gosh. So this film cost approximately $75 million to make. So at least it wasn't a $200 million budget. Woo, but these effects are rough. I mean, these are some of the worst visual effects I've seen in a big blockbuster in years. They are really terrible. When he's moving and running and flying and fighting, it looks like a PlayStation 1 game almost. Really, maybe like a PS2 level graphics. They are so bad. The face is bad. I wish they had done way more prosthetic work than this CGI vampire face that looks terrible. The design of their faces are even terrible. And then they go into slow mo. There's a lot of slow mo in these fights, and it just exemplifies how bad these visual effects are. I cannot stress it enough. I was actually shocked at how poor it looked. And the cinematography outside of that is also bad, but whew, those effects, my God. And add on top of that, this visual style, like Morbius leaves streaks behind him, like Sonic the Hedgehog style, as he moves and flies and even runs. And I sat there thinking, how would they ever intend on morphing this into Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe? The visual style and aesthetic just does not match at all. It would make zero sense. Then we have two mid-credit scenes. There's not one at the very end, so you could just hightail it after you see that second mid-credit scene. They're terrible. The actor that appears for those phoned it in as bad as I've seen him phone in line reading in a long time. And whew, once again, that dialogue is real clunky and real forced. I hated those mid-credit scenes. It also feels like there's no like stakes. There's just like nothing to this film, even less so than with the Venom films that are self-contained, at least for the moment as well. This literally just felt like filler. At the end of the day, honestly, I felt like Morbius was a literal just waste of time. It is a filler in this Spider-Man Marvel universe that puts the comic book genre back about a decade in just how poorly it's constructed. All of the worst tropes, all of the biggest complaints people ever have about comic book films are all compounded into one film titled Morbius. I will say, I guess it's not as offensively terrible as maybe I anticipated headed in, but it met the expectations of just how bad I did think it was going to be in the first place. So, honestly, unless you are just committed, I would skip Morbius. Watch the mid-credit sequences online if you feel that you need to be kept in the loop on the universe, and just read what Morbius does on Wikipedia rather than sitting through this film. It adds nothing to the comic book or film landscape. So that was my review for Morbius. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Morbius, or have you already seen it? If you have, let me know your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.